Hi guys. So today I'm making some homemade marinara sauce with tomatoes from my CSA and any tomatoes that I may have gotten from my garden. I have my big Dutch oven. Oh, turning it on. So I have my big cast iron Dutch oven. And then here are tomatoes from the CSA and from my garden. And from the previous one, I just chopped them up and freeze them. And I know the traditional Italian way that they make the sauce is that they peel them and they de-seed them, but I'm lazy. So when I have tomatoes that I notice, we're not eating fast enough, I just chop them up and I put them in a Ziploc and I freeze them. I take that little stem area off, that harder part. So I do cut that off, but I don't bother taking seeds out and because I just puree the crap out of everything. I mean, you eat the seeds when you're eating a tomato in a salad. So I puree it with an immersion blender and really, you simmer all that water down anyway. So you need several hours, and I mean, you can do it in a slow cooker, but I'm doing it in the stock pot and not stock pot, crock pot. And I have some carrots here, and then I had a half of a red onion left over. So while that's heating up, I actually will put some avocado oil, just a little bit. And then I get the carrots and the onions going. Gives it a, when you roast or you cook down a little bit, it sweetens it. And I add the carrots because the carrots, not only is it adding more vegetable to the sauce that, the boys don't know about, but it also sweetens the sauce without adding sugar. Sometimes I forget about that. There's been times when, and then I'm like, it needs a little sweetness, and I add sugar, and I completely forget, like, oh my God, add the carrots, Somebody that I worked with ages ago, this Italian woman, that I worked with ages ago, had told me she puts carrots in her sauce. So I added the carrots, and I'm just going to cook them down just a little bit. Especially the onions, get them nice and sweet and going. But this is almost like a put it in and forget about it too. You just, want to, keep an eye on it, making sure it doesn't dry out. But I don't add any salt, not until the end, because as the water evaporates, if you add salt in the beginning, it could become too salty when it all reduces and all the water evaporates. So you season it at the end. So yeah, let that get going, and then I'll add the tomatoes. Okay. I don't really look for color or anything, but oh, the smell. You just start smelling the fragrance of nothing like cooked onions. But then that's it. And then I'll start adding my tomatoes in. Whole bunch of tomatoes. You'd be surprised at how many tomatoes you could possibly use versus the amount of sauce you actually get. I mean, I know there's always like these quick marinaras, cans of tomatoes. Saute a little bit of onion, let it simmer just a little bit. But when you're doing them from fresh tomatoes, you need a whole day. Well, maybe not a whole day, but you need a couple hours. So now I'm going in for the frozen ones. There's a nice chunk. Put that in there. And yeah, and then I'm just going to lower the flame, let it simmer. I don't put the cover on the whole way because you want the water to evaporate. Tomatoes have a lot of water to them. And that is all my tomatoes. Yep. And that's it. So I'm just going to lower my flame. I had it on medium. Wrong one, sorry. Going to lower it maybe to a 2. That's not my big burner back there. I don't know, my stove is weird. They put the big burners in the front. So stupid. Anyway, so yeah, I just leave it open just a little bit, and then I'm just gonna keep checking on it, and then I'll stir it to make sure all the water didn't all go away and I'm burning it. And that's it. Set it and almost forget it. So all the ice is thawed and a lot of the water has come out of the tomatoes. So what I'm gonna do is use my immersion blender. It's ancient. And I'm gonna blend the crap out of it, puree it so it mixes all with the onions and the carrots and makes a delicious sauce. And then I'm gonna continue to simmer it so that it thickens. So more water evaporates. I'm gonna put it on simmer and probably another 2 hours or so to really get it nice and thick and rich and sweet. Oh, there you go. I pureed it. It's still really, really thin and watery. So I have the oven, not the oven, the stove, the fire, the flame on a little higher than a simmer. I want to, make it go a little quicker to get this water out. So, yep, just going to bring it to a nice rolling simmer. Keep an eye on it. Keep the lid a little open so that the water can come out. Oh, it smells good. And then when it's thick, that's when you season it. You taste it, you season it, you salt, if you want to add oregano, if you want to add basil, all that stuff. So it's going to be another probably 2 hours. So look at that. Look how much it's reduced. And look how much thicker it is. Yep. So I think it actually, with the way it feels, this is thick enough. I think I want it a little thicker, so I'm going to continue to simmer it. It's been about 2 hours. Just going to continue to simmer. I'm going to taste it, see how much salt it needs. I have some fresh basil in the garden. I'm going to throw some basil leaves in there to season it up. And I think that's it. Yep, so I put some salt in it. I'm actually going to turn it off. It's definitely thick enough, and since it's warm, it's probably going to continue to thicken. And then I have my fresh basil leaves, and I want quite a few of them in there. Give it a nice basil flavor, and that's it. My homemade sauce is done. Some Italians like to put like a touch of butter and melt some butter on top. I've done that before. I don't know if I really noticed any difference, but I guess like a creamier texture. But and then bolognese, you actually add milk, but of course it'll have meat in it. But yeah, that's the sauce I do with homemade, homegrown tomatoes. And I'll do it with canned tomatoes too. But I know there is a quick marinara that you could do with canned tomatoes when you want a quick sauce. I tend to think the quick sauces tend to be more watery, and I like mine thick and coating. So that's how I make my homemade sauce. So it's pretty simple. You just need time. You just got to let it do its thing. And then you have a really delicious sauce. You can really taste the difference between that and jarred sauce. And the carrots do add a little sweetness to it. Not too much. I mean, it doesn't taste like, there's been a lot of sugar in it, but it does, the carrots take away some of the acidity of the tomatoes is what they told me when you add carrots to it. So that's my sauce. Enjoy.